Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 450 chainsaw. Customer complaint is that he dropped a tree on it. He wants it assessed for repair, and he wants a phone call if it's going to cost more than $150. So we noticed that the top cover was busted, and now we see that this area around the primer bulb is broken up, and that's all part of the crankcase. Now, yeah, this saw could be fixed and run without that crankcase being replaced. Some weird damage there, but it's really nothing that would prevent you from cutting wood. We're looking at the ignition coil and the cylinder fins. They're kind of bent. And there's a weird cut right where the high tension lead comes out of the ignition coil. And it would probably allow spark to jump from that wire to the cylinder head. You know, that could be fixed with some liquid electrical tape, I suppose. Here's another spot that's been arcing. You can see it's all shiny, and then there's some carbon tracking near it. And there's actually a piece of wire that I can't pick up on camera here, but part of the wire was protruding from the insulation. So this saw wasn't running right either. Let's look at the cylinder. If it's scored, you know, we're just going to stop now. But as it turns out, the cylinder looked alright. So our air filter base, that does not seem to have taken any damage. Looks pretty decent. The trigger works right. The anti-vibe mounts and the handle seem okay, but the handle seems to have a little extra flex in it for some reason. And if I take a closer look on the bottom, I see that there's actually a crack in it. And in fact, it's broken in half. So we're just going to put this screw back in here so we don't lose it. Now we're taking a close look at the anti-vibe spring, and it looks like it's a little bit on an angle. Maybe that handle is holding it on an angle because it got flexed. I'm not sure. That spring seems alright. Not really sure why that's on an angle. Maybe the tank still has a little bit of a memory in it from being twisted. Looking into the fuel tank, everything seems normal in there. And not shown in the video, I also added some fuel to make sure that the tank doesn't leak because he brought it to me almost empty. Our brake handle appears to function properly and is not cracked. Clutch cover looks decent. The chain guide plate, that's beat up. So you know, when I'm looking at this for assessing it for damage, I'm also looking at things that need to be replaced that are previous damage or wear previous to the tree falling on it. You know, you can replace the top cover, but if the bar and chain are worn, you still got to replace them. So I'm going to take a gauge here. It's a 50 gauge bar, and I'm going to put the 58 gauge tool in there, and it drops right into the groove. So this bar is worn. So I have to add the cost of the bar to the repair. And when I look at the chain, there's a few drivers that are rounded off. If you ran it with a loose chain and spun the sprocket on the chain there, I'm not sure. It's a better shot of the guide plate where it's worn on the bottom. That was from a loose chain as well. and you can see that the chain catch is all beat up. So that chain has been run loose and popped off at least a couple times. So I gotta start adding this stuff up. You know, the crankcase is expensive, and labor to put a crankcase in there is expensive. We're not gonna count that. That would put us over the top without anything else. The ignition coil, I'm putting it on the list, although it could be repaired. Liquid electrical tape over the high tension lead we'd get by with that. It does need a front handle, so there's $50 right there. That chain guide plate should be replaced because the way it's worn, it's letting dirt and sawdust jam up behind it into the oil pump area, and the oil pump's not going to last very long. Chain catch should be replaced too. It's getting a little thin. Here's where I had put some fuel into the tank just to test whether or not it leaked, and it passed that test. The tank is still good. Taking another look at the fins on the cylinder. You know, this ought to run with bent fins, but the cooling might not be the best. We're just putting that on the list and informing the customer about it, but we're not going to count the $200 or whatever it is for a piston and cylinder. You know, I didn't think I had this part in the video. It doesn't matter. I just tested the tank for fuel leaks. It does need a purge bulb though, and it needs a snap clip, and it needs a top cover. And we got to put the cost of a bar and chain on here as well. So if you just count the things that it really needs, and we could even take the cost of the coil off of there. We're at $190, but you got to put labor on there as well. I don't know that saw is worth it. These things are usually on sale for about $400, and that comes with a case. And I talked to the customer about it, and he decided he was going to buy a new saw. So this is going to be his new saw. We're going to prep it for him. They come shipped like this. In the 450s come shipped in the case. And the bar and chain are in the case as well. We just have to put them on there. But I always look the saws over and make sure that there's nothing wrong with them. And then, you know, check tightness of screws. And eventually we'll run it and drop in some wood and we'll adjust the carburetor. Carburetor adjustment won't be seen in the video here. Part of the official Husqvarna checklist would be checking the exhaust muffler bolts after the thing's been run. Make sure they're still tight. So everything looked good underneath the hood. There was an air filter on it, whatever. We're going to put some fluids in it. Just want to make sure that there's a fuel filter and a pickup screen in the oil tank. I'm going to put some canned fuel in here. Yeah, I don't know when he's going to run it next or how long it's going to sit. You know, I was just thinking, if he dropped a tree on it, does he have another chainsaw? Or was he cutting a tree down and it got pinched and rolled? It doesn't really look that way because the bar's not bent. Dude, where'd you go? That was close. Did you see that? Yeah. Tell you what, I won't do that again.
You're fast. You're fast.
That would have taken a huge chunk out of my paycheck. I'm pretty sure it would have broke. So that was a lesson learned. You know, I've let saws sit on the bench and run before. That one had some extra bounce to it, though. So I learned my lesson on that one. I won't do that again. That's all I'm going to have for you on the Husqvarna 450 that had a tree dropped on it and got replaced. Thanks for watching. Later.